From the MZ Studios, Dallas Virtual Studios in cyberspace, this is Deconstructing Dallas. Greetings, friends, colleagues, countrymen, and women. This is Ryan Trimble joining you again today via the magic of the internet. Joined again by my always sportsy colleague, Shawn Williams. Shawn, good day, sir.
Good day. I have not had a lot of sports. Obviously, none of us have to watch. I have not gotten into like Korean baseball or anything like that. But also, early on, I think people were playing old games. But now I think we're all just kind of like, whatever happens is fine.
Yeah. Well, it's great for our friends at the Dallas Fuel.
Yes.
They get to keep playing. But
yes, they do.
Yeah, Shawn, excited about our show today. You, of course, a gentleman who does not lack for hot sports opinions.
Well, I'm excited because me, you, a lot of folks at our office, including one of our owners, Jennifer Pascal, Maureen Wigert, are all P1s. We all listen to the ticket and have over the years. And so I reached out to Donovan Lewis, host on the 10 to noon show with Norman, to see if he thought we could get to see if we could get Bob Sturm on with us to take part in our Where Do We Go From Here series on racism, because Bob has had big opinions on the air and big opinions in cyberspace on Twitter.
Yeah, he has. Bob, of course, now one of the hosts of the Hardline, the 3 to 7 drive time show on the ticket. Was with Bad Radio, the Bob and Dan show, the midday show for a long, long time, now on the Hardline. But Monday he had he decided that he felt compelled to speak out and speak his mind, and he jumped into a host of issues, including his faith, racism in America. I mean, you name it, he jumped in. It was, pretty eye-opening from a guy who doesn't generally do that stuff, but it was pretty refreshing, and he got pretty real. We'll put a link to the podcast where you can find on the Ticket Top 10. They replay the segments from the day on the Ticket Top 10. We'll post that in the episode notes.
Yeah, Ryan, sports brings forth an interesting conundrum, because we've got this thought in society that they just need to shut up and dribble, they being athletes. And so we have sports, we have basketball where players are very active and very outspoken. And we have football where that hadn't been the case. We all remember, when Colin Kaepernick made his peaceful protest and how the NFL treated him, how society at large treated him. And I heard Bob, during one of those segments, talk about how Kaepernick was ahead of his time. But I think some of his former colleagues in the NFL have said enough is enough. And there's a video from Twitter, and I'd like to play some of the audio that has some NFL players, including Patrick Mahomes and our very own Zeke Elliott from the Cowboys, on it, demanding some change. And so I wanted to share this with the listeners, what they're demanding.
It's been 10 days since George Floyd was brutally murdered.
How many times do we need to ask you to listen to your players?
What will it take
for one of us to be murdered by police brutality?
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd?
What if I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd?
If I was George Floyd? If I was George Floyd?
I am George Floyd.
I am Breonna Taylor.
I am Ahmaud Arbery.
I am Eric Garner.
I am Tamir Rice.
I am Trayvon Martin.
I am Walter Scott.
I am Michael Brown Jr.
I am Samuel Du Bois.
I am Frank Smart.
I'm Philip White.
I am Jordan Baker.
We will not be silenced.
We assert our right to
peacefully protest.
It shouldn't take this long to admit.
So, on behalf of the National Football League,
this is what we, the players, would like to hear you state.
We, the National Football League,
condemn racism and the systematic oppression of black people.
We, the National Football League,
admit wrong and silencing our players from peacefully protesting.
We, the National Football League,
believe Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
So it sounds to me like they're resolute, and for me, I don't see that they're asking for anything that's unreasonable. And I think because of how it's been handled before, it puts the players in an even better position to demand change.
Yeah, it'll be. I hate to use the word interesting, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I mean, look, America watches the NFL, and it's the most popular sport out there, so all eyes are on it. And I don't think this is going away. I know we'll get into this with Bob today, but yeah, Shawn, it's interesting to follow a lot of these players. Even Delino DeShields, I was reading today of the Rangers. Obviously, he posted his story from when he was back visiting his friends at Georgia Tech, and he got pulled over by an officer who, stopped him at first and then realized who he was and asked for his autograph. Told him that he loved watching his dad. I mean,
sounds like a movie.
Yeah, this stuff is, it's out there, and I'm glad that we have a sports mind. For a lot of people, I think, this is the arena where this has played out before, and I think will, make have a big part of, hopefully the healing and hopefully coming together and moving forward in a, in a more positive manner, because sports is impactful.
Well, hey man, let's jump to it. Right after this break, we'll get to our interview with Bob Sturm from The Ticket. This is Shawn Williams, Ryan Trimble, Deconstructing Dallas. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, Deconstructing Dallas. Ryan Trimble, Shawn Williams. Shawn, as a sports guy, I'm super fired up today. As a quote-unquote P1, I know you are a P1 of The Ticket. Excited about our guest. Most of us know Bob Sturm from his, more than 2 decades covering the Dallas Cowboys for The Ticket, and more recently The Atlantic. And, of course, everybody knows him from his book, This Year's Different, the 2011 NBA Championship Series of the Dallas Mavericks. Get yours today for the low price of $20 at www.thisyearisdifferent.com. There's a cheap plug for you, Bob. But
Thank you.
Bob, I want to say, share with us a little bit about who you are, where you're from, and when you felt called to share your, we'll call it testimony from the segment on Monday surrounding race and class and religion and all the issues that you discussed.
Okay, yeah, we all come from different places and different stories, and mine is certainly not worthy of a movie script by any stretch. But I come from a very conservative background, a Baptist private school, and then on to Liberty University, which most people would say is probably about as right can get on the political spectrum. But I would also say back then, politics meant almost nothing to me, and I just wanted to play Division I basketball, and my parents wanted me to go to a school that believes in God, so we compromised with Liberty. And then I got there and I couldn't play because I couldn't guard anybody, and defense is a big part of basketball, and there's no shortage of guys who can hit wide open corner threes. So I was one of a million. And honestly, I got to Dallas kind of thinking that I need to be careful about mixing my job and my faith. And that went on for a long, long time, guys. About 15 years ago, I think I reached an epiphany that, in my estimation, God put me where he put me. My brother and I have very similar skill sets, including premature balding early in our 20s. We both did that. We both have big voices. he preaches, and I I talk about football. And so there are times as a Christian that you wonder if you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, or if you're doing what you want to do. And about 2005 or 6, I got an epiphany that I'm probably exactly where I need to be now. In my head, that was a message of adoption and mission trips and poverty and taking care of our friends in Central America who don't really have a voice. And so I thought that was the meaning of life. And we adopted our boy from Honduras in 2011, and I've been on 10 or 11 mission trips down south of the border. And that's really touched me. And then we did a community outreach with Cornerstone down near Fair Park, a great ministry, clothes closet, and inner city poverty ministry, basically food kitchen, shower facility, and everything. So that was put on my heart, and every year we do a clothing drive for the good folks of Dallas, and so many great people speak out. Honestly, all of those messages are just about 100% to zero. There's really nobody that gets upset with that message. Poverty, kids, clothes for the food for the hungry. I mean, these are very basic positions to take, and I felt comfortable doing it. For the most part, otherwise, I never speak up. Partly because I study football for a living, and I realize the world's a complicated place, so I try to sit most of the things out. But in this particular space, I just felt like it was important for me to challenge my fellow believers and, frankly, my fellow affluent white people to kind of attempt to see the matters that are facing our country right now through a different lens, because the lens that general group has been using, and I'm part of them, so hopefully they understand this is part looking in the mirror sometimes, is that we don't have enough empathy for people that aren't us, and maybe more directly to the point, politics, and maybe specifically the abortion issue, have clouded our vision about what God would have us do. And I realize once I start going down these roads, I alienate a lot of fellow believers and whatever. But I also realize I have 3 kids, and I want to teach them, very basic, reasonable things that I think Jesus taught all of us, which is love thy neighbor and make sure you take care of the less fortunate in your society. And certainly don't let culture, ethnicity, country of origin, or anything cloud your vision for what Jesus's message has always been. So I wanted to say that I've never been that direct on the ticket until this week, guys. And this week I faced a ton of support and a ton of opposition for, I guess, not shutting up and dribbling. And it's okay. It's okay, because I also felt like this is why God has been so good to me, is to try to pass it along, not as somebody who's perfect, not as somebody who's talking down to people, but hopefully someone that can just challenge us to try to find different roads to find common ground and be empathetic. And, I realize this is a really long answer, so let me wrap it up with this thought. I feel like white guilt, or even the term woke, or any of these things that are lobbed at me, I feel like that's missing the boat. I don't want anyone to feel guilty. I just want people to feel empathetic. And guilty and empathetic have wildly different definitions. And nobody's trying to make anybody feel specifically responsible. What empathy does is it doesn't worry about guilt. It asks you to simply see the world from somebody else's perspective, whether that's an orphan in Guatemala, or whether that's the richest man in the world, or whether that's somebody of a different skin color that gets pulled over by the authorities. So, regardless, that's been my general